is over, so hopefully it'll be tonight. If not, I will try and get it as soon as I can. Notes. Slope from 2 points in a table. We're having problems with this. Positive slope, negative slope. Okay? I'm just saying, I'm looking at all those graph papers that you got back. A lot of people didn't get this correct. Horizontal lines have no slope. That would be a horizontal line. If you get a number, a 0 over a number, it's giving you a horizontal line. Did I do that right? Yes. So if you have 0 over 34, your slope is 0, not 0 over 34. How do you count 0, rise, and 34, run? I mean, I guess you could, but then that means you're counting just horizontally, correct? Make any sense? Vertical lines have undefined or no slope. Slope is always noted by the lowercase m. Slope formula, the change in y over the change in x, which is the vertical change over the horizontal change, the rise over the run. To find slope given two ordered pairs, use the slope formula. M equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. I promised myself I wouldn't write that, but I did. Find the slope given 2 points. If you have 2 points, this is not a point. Okay, just as an example number 1. You have x1, y1, x2, y2. It takes, and you put y2, 8, subtract y5, you get 3. You take x2, subtract x1, you get -5. That is simplified. That's the farthest it's going to go down. This is what stumps a lot of people right here. Okay? Most of you did somewhat okay here, but when you got this, you just didn't know where to go. Okay? And it comes from that keep, change stuff. Okay? What you have here is a double negative, so this time I'm going to want you to rewrite it. You're going to do all your work on notebook paper. You're going to rewrite it like this. Then you're going to say, okay, I have a 5 and a 3. 5 take away 3 is 2. Keep the sign of the larger. Here I've got 4 take away 6, which is 6 take away 4, which is 2. Keep the sign of the larger. -2 divided by -2 is 1. So from now on, when you go to see slope from 2 points or slope from a table, the first thing I want you to do is this. I want you to come here and I want you to write your divide by sign. I want you to put your subtract and your subtract. Okay? That way it doesn't get confused with any of those negative signs that you have with slope. Okay? And then I want you to do this. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay? And I've got y2 take away y1 over x2, take away x1. I get 3 take away 2 because I have different signs. 3 take away 2 is 1. The sign of the larger is negative. 7 take away 4 is 3. I take the sign of the larger, which is positive. Can I simplify -1/3? No, that is my answer. Okay? So, what's the first thing I asked you to do? Draw your line. Put your subtract. Okay? Alright. So, x1, y1, x2, y2. The formula is what? Let's all say it. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. If you say it as you're doing it, you won't get it wrong. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Do you see how now I don't forget that subtract negative? My double negative is there already because all I did was put down the numbers. I don't care. I don't have to decide if it's this or which one should have been that negative sign on that 6. So on the top I have 10 take away 8, which is, and what's the sign I need to keep? Negative. Okay? On the bottom, I've got a negative and a negative. Oh, we should rewrite this. -4, 2 negatives make a positive. Now, I have -2 still, don't I? And I have 6 take away 4, which is 2. And what sign do I keep? So -2 divided by +2 gives me what? -1. A lot of you, that's all there is to it. You're making mistakes with integers. Some of you are getting numbers completely turned around. Some of you aren't putting this. And you can look at your work and see. Next one. Line. Subtract, subtract. I know. X1, Y1. X2, Y2. Does everybody understand what I'm doing at this point? So you're going to be able to do it when you go home. So, Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. Here we go. 4 take away 2 is, what's the sign of the larger? Okay. Oops. I got to do something about this double negative. I do not want you to go to Walmart. I want you to go. -7 plus 7 equals. Now I still have a 2 up here, don't I? Now I have a 7 take away 7. Now what do I have? 0. 2 over 0 is what? I know it seems so simple when we're doing it together, doesn't it? But do those grades reflect it? No. What? Well, but you know what? A 70 is not very good in this class, by the way. Okay? You want to take a 2.0 GPA with you? I mean, I understand you're going to get a low grade occasionally. All right? We're all going to not be perfect, all right? But when you start getting a 70, an 80, a 75, an 80, those things start adding up. So most of your grades in here should be in the 90s, okay? High 80s and high 90s. That high 90 will offset it, and you'll still be all right. You know what I mean? But you don't want to get here where you get in the habit of you're getting the 60s, 70s, and low 80s all the time, okay? Because you're not quite where you want to be. All right, tables. Here's another situation altogether. It's the same thing, people. Tables are X and Y coordinate pairs. Okay? Now, these, I want you to find not only the slope, but we want to find the Y-intercept. Okay? And I'm going to draw you a picture one more time, because some of you didn't even get the Y-intercepts correct. All right. If I have here is my line. Okay? Here's my X-axis. Here's my Y-axis. If I have a point right here, what's that point? What is the X and Y value on that point? Coordinate point, what is it? Is it 40 or 04? 04. Because did I have to move left or right to get there? So that's where 0 comes from. That's your X. I had to move up to 4. That's your Y. So what about this one? 0, 1. What about this one? 0, -2. Okay? Just to say, I mean, for general... So, I've got lines. They cross. They cross. It doesn't matter. any place that they cross this y-axis, what is the value of x? 0. So in a table, you've got to find your y-intercept. This is where the y-intercept is where a line is crossing the y-axis. So anywhere to find your y-intercept, x has to be 0. So if you've got a table, the easiest thing to do is if you have 0 for x, the y-intercept must be at 2. Okay? So all you got to do is b is equal to 2. Boom, I've got, I'm sorry, yes, no, yes. Y-intercept, b is equal to 2. Okay? So if you are given a table of values, you can find both the slope and the y-intercept from that table and write the equation of that line. Yeah, you can even write the equation, because once you have the slope and the y-intercept, we found you can write the equation right away, right? Because all it is y equals mx plus b. If you know slope, which is m, and b, which is your y-intercept, all you do is plug them in. Does that make any sense? Okay? So this little arrow means, or this little triangle here means change in. So in other words, sometimes they write the formula to find the slope or the rate of change, use the change in y over the change in x. Well, over here, weren't we finding the change in the y values over the change in the x values? Do you see how that was? The change in y over the change in x? We were finding the changes in the y's over the changes in the x's. All right? So all we have to do here on a table is use the same formula, and all you're going to do, I don't care what 2 points you choose. Any 2 points will give you the slope. Now, not all tables are proportional, but you will still get the slope if you simplify. Okay? So I can choose, I'm going to first choose these 2 points. I'm going to do 2 different ones on here just to prove a point. I'm going to call this x1, x2, y1, y2. Remember my formula? Right here, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So I'm going to write my line. I'm going to put my subtract and my subtract. So I'm ready to go. y2, 2, over y1, which is negative 4. Then I've got x2 is 0, take away negative 2. Oh my goodness, I got both situations I got to fix because I got a double negative. So what am I going to write over here? 2 plus 4 over 0 plus 2. 2 plus 4 is? 0 plus 2 is? 2. 6 divided by 2 is? And we're done. That's your slope. What if I was to use these two? Do you think I'm going to come out the same way? Yeah. I don't know. x1, x2, y1, y2. I'm just going to check it, okay? I got 14 take away 8 over 4 take away 2. And now 14 take away 8 is 6, 4 is 2. You're not always going to end up at this step with the same number, just so you know. Okay? That's a proportional table. You're not always going to end up that way. But this one happens to work. Okay? So it doesn't matter what 2 points. You should come out the same. Now in 8th grade math, because we have to find tables that are proportional, tables that are not proportional, we teach you choose two pairs in the middle. Okay? Because generally they will screw with you either in the beginning or the end, and the middle ones will usually work. All right? But that's just a habit that Miss Moon and I have created to get you guys, because not all of you will check every single one. All right? All right, so here we go. Another table. I'm going to put a line, subtract, subtract. I'm going to pick 2. I've got y1, y2, x1, x2, and I've got 60 and 70 here, and I have -1 and 0 here, and now it's a matter of 70. Take away 60 is what? And what's the sign I need? Negative. Here, 0 take away 1 is what? Or -1 take away 0 is what? -1, yes. And now I have -10 over -1, and what is that? That's your slope. What's my y-intercept? 60. It's that easy. You wouldn't believe some of the crazy things you guys have on your papers. I suggest you don't let them screw you up, but, okay? All right, we're going to get a little bit harder. We're going to find our slope first. x1, x2, y1, y2. So I've got 12 and 7 and 9 and 6. 12 take away 7 is 5. 9 take away 6 is. Now, some of you would want to give me 1 2/3. Don't do it. Leave it just like that. Okay? You can't simplify 5 and 3. There's nothing in common. So just leave it like that. So your slope is 5/3. Okay? Y-intercept, a little more difficult. Remember I said we got to figure out where x, now this one happens to be, this is going down by what every time? 3. If I go down 3 more, where am I going to end up at?
0.
So x is 0, that's what I need, right? I need the y value when x is 0. So if these are going down by 3, how many are these going down by? 5. So 2 take away 5 is going to get me what? -3. So when x is 0, y is -3. So my y-intercept is -3. Was that really that hard? No. Okay. Let's try another one, because there's no slope here. There's no y-intercept listed here. All right, first we're going to do the slope. So m is equal to line, pick 2 maybe, and I'm going to do x1, x2, y1, y2, and I get -0.5 and -1.5. And I have a -1 and a 1. I got to clean that up on the top, right? Okay, so I'm going to do -0.5 plus 1.5. And on the bottom, -1 and -1 gives me... Oh, no. If all I have is 2 negatives, I just combine them and keep the sign, correct? So it's a -2. But I still got to go on because I got to clean this mess up. So 1.5 take away 0.5 leaves me 1. Is it positive or negative? Positive. But my bottom is still negative. There's your slope. It doesn't matter where you put that. You could have it in the middle, you could have it on the top, you could have it on the bottom, as long as you don't have it twice, because then you need to change it to a positive 1/2. Okay? So there's your slope. Now, we got to figure out what our y-intercept is. Remember, I need to know where x is 0. 0 is somewhere between 1 and -1, isn't it? Okay, so this is going down by how much? 2. Is this going down by 2? And this went down by 2, right? What's half of 2?
1.
Wouldn't that give me 0? So this goes down by how much? 1 each time, right? So what's half of 1? Oh, so it's already at -0.5, so go down another -0.5, and I would end up at -1. That one's a little bit tricky. Okay? A little bit harder to get. Gotta think. Okay. A couple more examples. Now, this time, your x and y's are just the opposite way. These are still all x's. These are still all y's, but you got to think the table is going differently. And if you have a table like this and it doesn't have them listed as x and y's, know that x's are always on top, y's are always on the bottom. Okay? It will always be that way, just like x's are always on the left and y's are always on the right. Even if it's a table with names, all right, it'll always be that way. So here, I just got to set it up a little bit differently. And I can do x1, x2, y1, y2. Here's my, hold on, it'll autofocus here in a second. Okay? So now I've got -3 and -5, and on the bottom I have -1 and -2. Well, I'm going to have to clean up the mess. I've got -3, what? -3 plus 5, and -1, -1 plus 2. So now let's see where I'm at. 5 take away 3 is, and keep the sign of the larger, which is positive. 2 take away 1 is, and keep the sign of the larger, which is positive. And I would still simplify that to 2. Okay, you're never going to see an answer 2 over 1. All right? What's your y-intercept? -1. That's correct. Okay, it's just a matter of reading your table. All right, we're going to do this one. And then we're going to do the graph. All right, so I got this lovely thing. By the way, what is the y-intercept? Where it crosses the y-axis, and most of the time it's like a starting point, okay? It's an initial value. It is the total. It is usually, on a graph like this, it is the initial value on a one-coordinate graph. It's where the line starts, okay? Just so you know, that's what V represents, okay? So if you have something that starts at 0, you won't have a y-intercept because the y-intercept will be 0. The y-intercept will be 0. So it won't be there because we're lazy and we don't write it. All right? Okay, so here I've got x1, x2, y1, y2. So 21 and 14, and I've got 6 and 4. And that leaves me 7 and 2. And I would leave it just like that. Ooh, what's your y-intercept here? If this is going down by 2's, to get to 0 for x's, because these are my x's, here I take it down one more time. These are going down by 7's, right? So one more time would give me 0 for my y, so your intercept is 0. And what's that saying? Number of costumes in fabric yards. So what that's telling you is that for 0 costumes, you need 0 yards. Okay? Doesn't that make sense? We're going to start interpreting in a little bit. Not today. All right. Hop, driving towards prey. Number 1, when I look at a graph, first thing I say to myself, is this line negative or positive? So get that in your head right off the bat. Okay? What is my slope? How do you find slope from a graph? Okay. We need to count, and we need to count intervals. And I don't care. You could count it here. You could count it from here to here, because all of them are crossing. But what you need to understand is the intervals, each line has a value of 10. Okay? Each line this way has a value of 1, doesn't it? And you are rarely going to see where the values are 1 and 1, even in 8th grade math. All right? But algebra for sure. So if I'm rising, I'm having to do rise over run. And I already know I have a negative, and I'm rising 10, 20, 30 on this one that I'm counting, and then I'm running 1, 2, 3. Do you see that? 3, and I get negative 30 divided by 3, which is negative 10. Okay? If I'd counted this one right here, I would get a rise of 10 and a run of 1. Oh my goodness. So the smaller you can draw, the less you have to simplify. What is my y-intercept? B is equal to what? 90. Okay? I hope everybody is feeling better after that, because whether you get it or not, you need